Would you consider the crimes returned in the indictments last week, those of perjury, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy, to be impeachable crimes?
I do not expect that the House committee will find that the president is guilty of any of these crimes.
Your credibility has been severely damaged. Can you repair it?
Well, I imagine I'm the only one around who wants to repair it, and I didn't have anything to do with damaging it.
What goes through your mind when you hear critics compare this current controversy to Watergate?
We're not covering up or anything. We are opening up.
How do you feel about comparisons by some of your critics of this week's scandals to those that happened under the Nixon administration?
You can go ahead and read the history, I think, and draw your own conclusions.
The president did not bite on those historical comparisons. What does the roundtable think? We are joined by George Will, Katrina vanden Heuvel, editor and publisher of The Nation, ABC's new chief Washington correspondent, Jeff Zeleny, April Ryan of the Urban Radio Networks, American Urban Radio Networks. Thanks for joining us, and Ron Fournier of National Journal. Thank you all for coming in. So George, last week before the hearing, you wrote a column saying you heard echoes of Watergate in the IRS scandal. After the hearings, after the revelations this week, do you still believe that?
Sure. In this sense, it's the use of the federal machinery to punish enemies of the administration. Let's take a running leap into this. March 2012, the IRS, responding to rumors all over conservative movement and all over Washington that conservative groups were being targeted, assured the Ways and Means Committee this was not true. The commissioner at the time did. 2 months later, they know that's not true. Did they come back to the Ways and Means Committee and correct the record? No, they did not. In June 2012, the number 2 man at Treasury and the Treasury General Counsel are told about the targeting. Did they respond in any way that we know about yet? Did they inform the White House? We don't know.
They say no.
That's why we have divided government. We're going to have hearings and we're going to find out. Then, on March 10th, May 10th of this month, Lois Lerner, in an amazingly interesting coincidence, is asked a question at an American Bar Association conference about this. And she says, yes, it's been happening. This just in front of a report that's going to come out from the IRS confirming that. This week, the acting commissioner, Mr. Miller, says the IRS was not corrupt in this. It was just breathtakingly incompetent, delivering what he called horrible customer service, which, another amazing coincidence, just happened to fall disproportionately on conservatives. Finally, he said, I do not know whose idea this was, but I do know that these people I do not know did not have political motives. That's where we stand.
That's where we stand. But we also know a little bit more than that. And let me bring you this to Ron Fournier. We do know that, at least on 2 occasions, higher-ups at the IRS went back to the Cincinnati office and said, broaden out the criteria. This doesn't seem fair.
Right. I mean, the problem with this scandal, and it actually relates to the other ones that we'll talk about later, is, when you're in a position of government and saying we're not corrupt, we're just incompetent, that's a bad place to be. And what unites all these things is it undermines the credibility of the administration and the president and the competence of government. And this is a time when we have a president who's really trying hard to prove that government can improve our lives, that government can help us move forward, and trying to reverse this decades-long decline in our faith in government.
I want to get to that question a little bit. Let's stick on the IRS for now. Your response, George.
Watergate, seriously, George? I mean, Watergate was a scandal unique in its depths of criminality. You had a president at the heart of the White House directing the subversion of the FBI and other institutions, including the IRS. There is no evidence, and I think the IRS scandal is outrageous. There is investigation underway. The president has fired the acting head. And the key scandal, which you will disagree with, is that we had, after Citizens United, a flood of money coming in, and you had groups which were clearly political and partisan, trying to use this 501c4 categorization to escape political scrutiny. Let us have an investigation, but let us not call it Watergate, because that demeans our history and the full nature of constitutional crises.
I would only say that I brought Watergate into this because abuse of the IRS was Section 1, Article 2 of the Articles of Impeachment of Richard Nixon.
But it has been used by the Kennedy administration, by the Nixon administration, but there is no evidence yet that the president or the White House knew of any outside political pressure. And the key scandal is that we must break open and have even-handed standards so that people, the Congress and the FEC have failed in their duty because donors, political parties, PACs, these so-called 501c4s, which should be abolished, have not had standards to abide by.
And Jeff, you certainly saw that's where the two Democrats who are on the committee certainly want to take these investigations going forward. From your reporting, what else do you expect to be uncovered this week, and what direction do you expect the Senate Finance Committee to take?
Employees, agents who they're going to bring in and question. That's not going to happen on Tuesday, but that's what we really need here. Some of the employees to sort of call out Washington. Right now it's top down. We need to hear from the bottom up.
But April, the White House does seem pretty confident in their assertions that there was no communication one way or the other with the IRS.
Yes, they do. But you always have to remember with the White House, and everyone here knows this, you have to present this strength and the fact that your hands were clear, particularly the president. Even though the White House counsel knew about it a month ago, the president says he found out about it through media reports. But one thing that this administration is trying to do to win the picture on this, and one way that they're trying to win the picture on this is Friday night they asked the new IRS commissioner to embark on an investigation that will bring back information in 30 days. So they are really standing strong and saying, look, we had nothing to do with this, but we're trying to move this forward and get answers.
Ron, that's not enough for the senators we heard today. Calls for special counsel from Senator Portman, from Congressman Price saying he's not quite there yet. Do you see this as the next step, or are the congressional investigations going to be sufficient?
No, we're definitely going to have to have a congressional investigation. It kind of depends what comes out of that. If there's any hint that, all there has to be is a blind copied email to a deputy political director in the White House, and this thing is really big, maybe even Nixonian big. If after a real thorough investigation, it stopped inside a very incompetent, poorly managed, about to take over health care IRS, then it's just a severe problem for the president's government.
Yeah, sure, but let's start, as Jeff says, from the bottom up. Let's find out if that group in Iowa that says, the Right to Life group, says it was told it would get its tax-exempt status if, but only if, it promised not to picket Planned Parenthood. Let's find out if that happened, and if so, who told them that, and where they got the bright idea to do that. A Tennessee group said your entitlement to this status will be contingent upon telling us the names of the high school and college students that you trained to participate in politics. I want to find out what
You do wonder where these questions came from.
In order to have even-handed application of IRS standards, again, the Federal Election Commission, the Congress, we need to have a set of standards because these people in Cincinnati, first of all, they also broadened it to non-Tea Party, non-conservative groups. But I think you need to have a set of standards. And our campaign finance system needs to be just torn apart. It's broken. Our democracy is broken. And this is a subset of that. Sure, let us have investigations. But scandal is not an agenda. And the Republicans are going to run just inhaling scandal without a sober-minded fact-finding investigation on any of these issues. Now, I think the real issue, which predates this week, and is it a scandal? It's a scandal to some, but we've known about it, is the AP story. I mean, the fact that this administration picked the baton from Bush and failing to uphold what it promised, has had the worst record on press freedom. You can't be a situational civil libertarian, George. Listen, the press freedom record, the transparency record of this administration has prosecuted more people for leaks, officials, than any others. And I think that is something maybe millions of people in this country don't care because they don't care about Benghazi or the IRS story right now. But that's something that speaks to the core of democracy and what we stand for.
Let me take a step. If the Republicans go too far in pushing, you've already heard what we played it in the open, Michelle Bachmann raising the specter of impeachment here.
It is, that's silly, and it's possible to go too far, but Republicans perhaps cannot be blamed for saying a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. And there is a crisis of confidence, and they are the political party that exists to say that government is necessary, but always is a danger.
Even the National Review had an editorial this week, scandal is no agenda. Now, I would argue that the Republican Party is unified by its determination to obstruct President Obama. It's doing a good job. I mean, one of the terrible things this past week was to see again how it's obstructing the confirmation of appointees needed to run a functional government. However, I would say that the president, his administration is floundering because they haven't they've allowed weapons of mass distraction to dominate because they haven't found their core agenda for the second term. What is it? Is it immigration reform, which might well have a better chance of passing because of this distraction in Washington?
Better chance?
Yes, I think because people will be distracted by the scandals, but I think jobs, where's the job creation? Where's the action on guns? These are focuses of an administration that knows what it wants to do in a second term. So I think there's blame.
What we have when we have 320 million, 330 million people in our country, some of them are going to be loony, and they're going to be in all kinds of they'll be in politics, they'll be in insurance, they'll be in any field you want. You're going to find people that are over the edge, and this is. Yeah,
but did he used to be this bad, Jerry? I mean, again, when you were in politics, were the Republicans this crazy? Before you answer that, let me show you one more clip from Ted Cruz. This is C12A. Okay, this is about all the things he wants to eliminate in government. Watch.
We need to eliminate the Department of Commerce, the Department of Energy, the National Endowment of the Arts, and I'll tell you what I'd most like to eliminate is the IRS.
Jerry, if you eliminate the IRS, we can't collect any taxes. We can't run the government at all. I mean, that's anarchist.
Yes, that's it. That's do away with the government of the United States. You know, you want to have a new conspiracy? These people that want to do away with our government, how is that different than all these dictators in the world want to do away? How is that different? You know, Osama bin Laden wanted to do away with our government. What's wrong with us?
And by the way, the other guy who wanted to was Karl Marx, who thought the government should melt away. And so, ironically, they're very similar to Marxists.
They're going around the full circle. Well,
but Jerry,
but this guy Cruz is supposedly well educated. I mean, he went to good universities.
Yeah, went to Princeton.
So what is he doing? I don't get that.
It's crazy. So was it this bad? Were the Republicans this crazy back in the day, or do you think it's gotten worse?
No, well, it's clearly gotten worse because there are, even though I disagree with Republican ideology, you know, there are a lot of intelligent Republicans that we just disagree with. But it's been the party, though, has been taken over by fringe elements. And I think why this happened, the serious answer to why this happens, part of it is structural. Because, you know, first we had cable news, to be honest, and that polarized us. But then, as you know, every 10 years, under the Constitution, we have the census. And the census, then they have to, under the Constitution, draw congressional districts all over the country. Every state, the politicians have to draw up new congressional districts. Well, what happens is, since they draw up the districts, every congressman wants to draw a district, or state representative wants to draw a district whereby they can't be reelected. As a result, 95% of Americans today live in a district that is either overwhelmingly Republican or overwhelmingly Democrat. Because of that, everyone who is currently in Congress doesn't have to fear being beaten by the other party.
And
what
that
they have
makes
to
them
fear
more polarized.
is they have to fear only being challenged in the primary. And that's how the Tea Party gained strength, because they could knock off regular Republicans with the extremists. And so now, if you're a Republican, you're afraid even to have your picture taken with Obama. And you never could talk with the other side. That is why we have become so